So let's talk about 5 marathon running tips that will hopefully help you guys run a faster marathon. With the build up to spring 2024 marathons slowly getting underway for many of us, I thought it'd be a good time to share some tips on improving your marathon performance. Now, I personally feel there are 2 big factors that stop most of us reaching our marathon potential, and they have both happened to me, and they're going to be the first 2 points that we cover in today's video. I'm not going to string it out to the end, we're going to dive straight into it. So if you're excited for today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekend running content. Let's get into fueling. So getting the right amount of fuel on board during a marathon is key, and this topic in general is such a minefield. So I'm basically going to bullet point what we need to cover here, and then if you've got any extra questions, do drop them in the comments below. Let's start with the recommended guidelines of fueling. It tends to be around 60 grams of carbs per hour, but more recent research shows that maybe 80 or 90 will be more sustainable for a lot of people, and I tend to go with that guideline because I am 6'6" and around 87, 88 kilos. I am a lot bigger than a lot of other runners, and I do need more fuel. Now, whether you're in the camp of 60 grams of carbs per hour or 80 or 90, whatever it might be, you just got to look at it and go, am I even taking on 60? Because that's the first big thing that so many people are not doing. They're taking a gel sort of every 35, 40, 45 minutes and think that's enough, and then they get to the end and bonk. Now, again, there's a couple of things that go into it. So a lot of people can get away with that. It's not near the 60 grams of carbs recommended, but then what's the effort level that those runners are putting in over the marathon distance? Are they putting in, let's say, the correct marathon effort, or are they running slightly under that marathon effort? Because then that depends on how much glycogen you burn through, how quickly you burn through your glycogen stores. If you're running in a more controlled effort level and heart rate zone, should we say, then you're going to be burning more fat than glycogen, whereas if you're running faster, you're going to burn through your glycogen stores quicker. So then that is another big sort of thing added to the mix as to what effort levels you're running. So let's just try and, for the sake of this video, say that we're all trying to run in and around that marathon pace effort level, and not trying to run any slower and just sort of complete the marathon, but we're trying to run it at the prescribed and correct effort level. Now, I just touched on it there, effort levels, and we'll come to that shortly, but a third thing to factor in here is your sweat rate. So are you a heavy sweater? Are you someone that doesn't sweat that much? So for me, I'm a very heavy sweater. I get salt lines all down my face. It's absolutely horrific. So then within that fueling strategy, I need to be looking for, I'm a runner that takes gels, so I need to be looking for gels that have sodium in it to replace what I'm losing, electrolytes basically. So will the gels provide me with enough electrolytes to get me through the distance, or do I need to be supplementing with electrolyte capsules along the way, tablets, salt tabs, whatever it might be? There's plenty of stuff out there to go alongside the gels. A lot of people use drinks instead of gels, so then does the drink mix have electrolytes in it? There's so many things that go into it as well. So once you've hit the 60 grams of carbs per hour and have practiced this and got your stomach used to it, then you need to look at sort of your sweat rate, and are you putting enough electrolytes back into your body as well, because that will play a massive factor towards the end of the marathon as well. Whew, we can nearly take a break. The final thing to think about then is your effort level that you put in, your pacing strategy. So the faster you go, the quicker you burn through your glycogen stores. We've talked about that already, but what you've got to bear in mind with this is, what is your racing strategy? Think about Kelvin Kiptum, great example of the world record, whatever his fueling strategy is in the weeks building up to it, we won't go into that. His race performance, his racing performances, and a lot of elite performances, Tola at the New York Marathon. These runners start off not conservative, but they don't go all in at the start. They're pushing negative split races, which means they're running the second half faster, or they're able to put surges in later in the race, which means they're conserving energy in the first half or first 20 miles of the race, whatever it might be. These guys are kicking on, and that's kind of realistically not how you should run a marathon, because we can all run marathons the way we want to, but it's the most effective and fun way, because you feel better at the end, finishing faster, rather than crawling over the line, having hit the wall around 20 to 22 miles. So what we've got to think about then is effort level. What effort level are you going out? If you work by heart rate, do you go out slightly slower in the first few miles and then lock into marathon pace? That's something that I did. I don't work to heart rate, but I decided to go first 2 or 3 miles, moderate effort, slowly creeping down, and then mile 4 lock into marathon pace, meaning that I had a gel 10 minutes before the race, and then I had a gel after 20 minutes or 25, and effectively in that first 4 miles I was keeping my fuel stores topped right up, so that when it got towards the end of the race and I was running low, I'd been able to kind of stretch that out for as long as possible because I'd really kept the tank topped up at the start. Now these elite runners are fueling every 5k, grabbing a bottle every 5k. So they're fueling even more regularly than myself and you guys, and this is something we need to think about. It's all well and good taking a gel every sort of 30, 35, 40 minutes, but if we want to run an optimum and faster marathon, we really have to take these things into consideration. So how do we go about sort of practicing this? How do we go about executing it on race day? Well, as I just said, we practice it. We have to practice it in training. We have to build up and know that our bodies can take that on. So through my last marathon block, every single time I was practicing effectively like my racing strategy fueling on some of the most key important long runs, and even through some of my medium long runs and some of the runs that I probably didn't even need to take a gel. I was throwing a gel down my throat to get my stomach used to it. Was it the right way of doing it? It got my body used to taking it, but there'll be arguments for and against that. Either way, I knew that I had to get my fueling strategy correct in order to run a faster marathon. So it's just something for you guys to think about. Whatever gel or drink mix works for you, when it comes to the final sort of 10 weeks of your marathon training build and you're getting into the point where you've got some meaty big long runs, practice that fueling as best as you can. Get your stomach used to it so that you're confident on race day that you can get those 60 grams minimum of carbs in per hour. And now onto the other really important factor of marathon training. I told you I was going to keep these first two as the most important in my opinion, strength and conditioning, because so many of us get to a marathon, and again I'm talking from experience here, get to the marathon race day and our body fails us. You hear that a lot. Oh, my calf gave out, my glutes, my hamstrings, my back gave in. And that can manifest itself through training. And then on race day, it just hits us. It can just be the fact that we've got a weakness in our muscle chains. And when we're putting ourselves under so much stress and we're not fueling properly, and our glycogen stores get depleted and our muscles kind of start to cramp and everything starts to go wrong, those injuries will appear. This again can be not rectified completely, but massively helped by targeting those weaknesses, targeting those areas that are problem areas for us runners. And again, I can't give you guys specific advice here, but I know my problem areas are my back, in particular on my right side, my glute, because my right ankle kicks out. If you ever watch my videos of me running, you'll see that my right foot kicks out. That just comes down to a weakness in my right glute, my right knee falls in, and my right ankle kicks out. And my right foot really can sometimes overpronate too much depending on the shoes I'm wearing. So I know where my weaknesses are, and I addressed those during my last marathon training block by doing strength training, and I feel a million times better for it. And again, just like last time, I'll be doing the same again. My routine's been put together by sort of my physio and previous PTs that I've been using, but you guys will have your own issues. There are so many of us that have great form and luckily can just do all-round general strength work. Lucky you. A lot of us though don't have that luxury, and we do have weaknesses that we do need to address. So again, going into marathon training with a good strength and conditioning, not just a coach, but a plan that will work alongside your marathon training and not stress the body too much, will be absolutely key. Whew, so a quick breather before we get into 3, 4 and 5. I just wanted to say I appreciate the fueling was a massive chunk, but it is such a big part of marathon training, and it was really important for me to articulate as much as I can. But of course, I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long. I want it to be bite-sized. So if you've got any questions about it, do drop them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. And number 3, keep in that speed. Keep the speed in your training block. A lot of people go into marathon training, in particular in the last sort of few weeks, and they really lock into marathon specific mode where they're practicing marathon pace, which is good, and we'll come on to that shortly, but really not doing too much else around the outside, maybe a bit faster, maybe a bit slower, and the rest is easy and moderate stuff, and they're not touching any top end work. From a neuromuscular perspective and also form, efficiency, and just general fitness, it's good to keep that speed in your marathon training. You need to become efficient at the top end stuff to also become efficient in and around marathon pace. What I think a lot of us forget, and I've done 2 training blocks where I've done this, so I am speaking from experience, my word, don't you feel sluggish when you're running on race day? You feel like you can't turn your legs over fast, you feel like marathon pace is an effort. Despite how much you practice it, it's still good to get an all-round variety of training in there. As I said, the speed will complement the marathon training will complement the easy stuff, and that all together just complements everything. So it's all part of the jigsaw, it's all still there to be done. Yes, the focus needs to shift more so you are practicing in and around that marathon pace, but by all means do not neglect that top stuff. It is just as important in marathon training as it is during 5 and 10k training. And speaking of practicing marathon pace, tip number 4 is going to be make sure you put in some marathon pace work into your training plan. Again, you'll be so surprised by how many people I speak to, or people that I'm now coaching that are having great success, by the way. And all of you coaching clients, I really appreciate you. You're all doing amazing. Some of the people I speak to have absolutely never practiced marathon pace in a training block. Some of them have done it a little bit, but not a lot. And I feel like it's a massive key component to marathon training to be practicing what it's going to feel like on race day, and also getting your body into a fatigued state and then practicing marathon pace. Because if you can nail marathon effort or pace, whichever, if you're running on hills or trails, then you're going to be working by effort. But there will be occasions where you try and hit goal pace in workouts, whatever it might be. If you're fatigued and then you can still hit it, then that bodes really well come race day, because you're building up all this training load in your body, you're hitting these marathon pace workouts, and then come race day when you're tapered and fresh, that marathon effort and pace is going to feel so much easier. And again, your body's going to be used to it because you've practiced it. So again, it's all about efficiency. It all comes down to efficiency. So as I said in the previous point, you're talking about keeping the speed in. You're working either end of the spectrum, keeping your easy and moderate runs in there, keeping your top end speed in there, also working a bit at sort of like marathon pace and just below, and then a big chunk in and around that marathon area, practicing that, especially in the final sort of 8 to 10 weeks as you get really specific. And my word, you will feel great on race day. And the final tip for you guys is test those race shoes before race day. So a lot of us love to go and buy new race shoes, save them, keep them boxed up for race day. It's so important to just break them in with a run or two. I like to do 2 runs in them. And I'm guilty of buying race shoes for the race day and saving them. I love to have a fresh pair. That's great. But it is really important to go out and do a couple of test runs. For me personally, I love to do a decent chunky long run in them. So good time on feet, usually over 2 hours, and then also a good marathon paced workout in them. Whether that's encompassed within a long run or whether that's a midweek workout, whatever it might be, just to practice what marathon pace feels like in them. Just breaking them in is good. There is an argument that if you've used Vaporflies before, Metaspeeds before, Saucony Endorphin Elites before, that you've got a fresh pair, that you know what they feel like and you know they work for your body, that you could probably just get away with 1 run to break them in and make sure they're okay. That's fine. I think I've done that in the past, so I won't judge anyone by that. But on the whole, if it's a new model to you, it's well worth just trying them out on a couple of runs, break them in, make sure you're happy with it. And that kind of also applies for kit as well. Plenty of you will be trying race kit. It's such a common thing to chuck in these videos. Try your race kit before you race. Yeah, I'll throw that in there too. But trust me, from experience, dealing with a bloody nipple, which I've done on many occasions, is far easier and less uncomfortable than dealing with a blistered foot. Again, been in both situations. The bloody nipple is annoying and frustrating. The blistered foot is painful and horrific. So for me, shoe testing, way more important than anything else. Yes, I am saying practice race kit, practice how you're going to carry your gels, practice all of that, but make sure those shoes are feeling good. So there we go. Those are my 5 tips to help you guys run a faster marathon. I definitely front loaded this video, but fueling and strength and conditioning are just such key components to running a good marathon. If you have any questions, please do feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you're looking for coaching, do feel free to check out the link in the description below. And if I remember, which I probably won't, but if I do, Nike have a sale on at the moment, Black Friday sale. And if you use the discount code SPRINT23, which is not mine, by the way, it's theirs, you can get the original Alpha Flies for £141 and the Next% version 2s for like 117 or something. So crazy cheap prices at the moment. I'll try and make sure I leave a link to those as well. It is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any more. It just means that I get a percentage of the sale. And if you guys were looking to stock up on some of those previous Alphafly versions or Next Percent 2s before they're gone, make sure you check out those links below. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you in the next one. Until then.